here, but they couldn't because they said that it was filled up. All.
Well, there may also be burials here that aren't marked.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are any existing records from way back. If you look over here, we have a tombstone that's made of zinc. Now, zinc tombstones, sometimes they call them white bronze. Well, they're not bronze. It's hollow inside. They started manufacturing these in Bridgeport, Connecticut in the 1870s. But they were kind of a fad, I think. There are a lot of advantages to a zinc tombstone. They last a long time, and lichen doesn't grow on them, so they don't turn black like the regular stones.
Were they cheaper because they're hollow?
They were cheaper also. But you can't really clean these other than with a light brushing and just water. But lichen doesn't grow on them, so that looks pretty good for being as old as it is. And you may notice that there is a Modern Woodman of America symbol on it, over here in the back. Modern Woodman of America was one of the earliest forms of life insurance. And it was a brotherhood of sorts. They had a lodge in Clinton. If you look at the old newspapers, they go to meetings, and you would pay your membership fees. Then that would go in a general fund, and then when you died, you'd get paid out. So when they first organized in 1883, they made their first payout the next year for $698.58. So in 1884, that was a pretty good sum of money. So you could bury your loved one and have a little bit to live on too. They had a lot of restrictions on the earliest members who could join. It was only available in the 12 healthiest states, which generally was the Midwest. You couldn't live in a city. You had to be a white male between the age of 18 and 45. But they did accept members of all religions, including atheists. And some of the other exclusions they had, I think some of them are kind of funny. They wouldn't take anybody who was a railway worker, a miner, a gunpowder factory employee, liquor wholesalers and manufacturers, saloon keepers, or professional baseball players. Now, I don't know what it was about the professional baseball players. Is it maybe because they traveled so much? I don't know. That company is still in business today. They still sell life insurance, but mostly they are financial planners. Over here, we have the tombstone of James Samuel Fruit. Now, he died in 1834, so obviously this stone was erected much later. I don't know what was here originally. But he's a Revolutionary War patriot. He came to DeWitt County in 1831. His son Thomas was already here. He was born in North Carolina. He served in the 1st Pennsylvania Regiment of the Militia when he was 16. He was married twice. His first wife's buried in Kentucky. The second one is buried in Scott County, Illinois. And according to his biography on Find a Grave, which I have not verified, he left a Negro man named Ned in his will when he died. So we don't have his probate record because we weren't a county yet. That would be in Macon County, probably. Died in 1834. This area was known as several different counties over the years. Yeah, 1834 would be Macon County. His biography on Find a Grave also says that he had one leg amputated below the knee. I don't know how you could verify that. Maybe if you had ground penetrating radar, I don't know. Right behind you over here is the tombstone of Moses Kinney, who founded Kinney. His stone is not held up real well for some reason. See it with a sign there in front of it? That's another one of those plaques that was funded by John Reagan. And how many of you are familiar with Find a Grave? You guys get on Find a Grave? If you want to bring it up on your cell phone, do you know
out here?
Maybe, maybe not.
I didn't know he'd tried it before.
I tried it over at DeWitt and I did not have luck. But there is a way to add GPS coordinates to an individual grave on Find a Grave.
You sign up by name. Cool.
You have to be careful when using Find a Grave as a source because many of the people who make entries on Find a Grave, they're hobbyists, they're not genealogists. And they don't ordinarily include sources for their information. If they include sources, that's great. And of course, if you have a picture of a tombstone and you could read it, that's pretty solid information. But most people don't think of genealogy as a science, and really it is. So scientific principles apply. When you find new evidence, then you have to change your conclusions. And you need to find as many sources as possible for whatever you're trying to prove. Find a Grave also has photo requests. Have you ever seen those? Where people can go into a particular graveyard and request a photo of a tombstone to be added. So if you ever get free time, there are quite a few out here that haven't been photographed and entered. But as you can see, a lot of these stones need work. They need repair. They need to be set up straight. And one of the things I'm hoping that will result from this bus tour is some volunteerism to help with that kind of stuff. Some of the other notable grave sites out here, there are a lot of fruits out here. The fruit family, they bought a lot of land. Probably close to 1,000 acres. Judge William Lowry, who has organized the first Methodist worship services in DeWitt County. He wasn't a judge here, he was a judge in Kentucky where he came from. He was an uncle of John and Melvin that built the first mill. There are a lot of Howards buried here, and there are a lot of Howards living in Kinney. There's a Howard Street, there was a Howard School, etc. John Morrison is buried here. He's the one that started Pastime Park and was the last owner of the mill. He was referred to in the papers as one of the last snowbirds. So we think of snowbirds today as people that go to Florida for the winter. That's what they were then. He was a survivor of the Great Snow in 1831 and 32, that winter. And James Q. Burgett, he was the blacksmith at the village of Franklin. Anybody have a question or comment about this cemetery?
Morrison's from their family. They're related to Shepherds. And some of their family was in charge of some big dam that was made in Arizona. That goes
Oh,
back to
yeah.
that family.
Well, I just read in the papers that the Morrisons were very successful, and I think they made a lot of money on their mill here.
Yeah, but that dam out there goes back to this family here.
Nice. All right, let's load up. We got to keep moving. You don't have to go down this hill if you don't want to. You can go down a little bit where it's flatter.
Yeah, I'm not going down that hill.
It's all in it.